Good morning from Athens, Greece. It is 8:30 on this Monday morning in Athens. I am in an area known as Kolonaki. This is pretty much the center of Athens. It is where all the cool people come to hang out. This is the posh area of Athens, Greece. Let's talk about the news. Happy 4th of July to everyone that is celebrating, wherever you are in the world. Hope you have a nice 4th of July. And let's talk about Kaliningrad. It's the 4th of July. Let's talk about Kaliningrad. I have an update with regards to Kaliningrad, and it is not confirmed. It's not 100% confirmed, but it looks like we are coming to some sort of resolution with regards to Kaliningrad. And this is coming out of Der Spiegel, the German publication, which they've got their pulse on what's happening in Germany with the Schultz government, and they are reporting that the European Commission, Der Spiegel has learned that the European Commission intends to publish a clarification on the issue of Kaliningrad in the next coming days. Its key message will be that Moscow will be allowed to use the transit route for all goods, but only limited amounts. So, of course, this is in reference to the Lithuanian blockade of transit from Russia to Kaliningrad. This is domestic transportation, domestic trade from Russia to Russia, but Kaliningrad is the enclave that Russia needs to pass through Lithuania in order to supply that enclave with various goods. And Lithuania, most likely under the orders of the United States and the neocons, Lithuania decided to impose a blockade on the transit of those goods to Kaliningrad. And of course, this caused all kinds of tension and trouble with Russia. And things got very, very tense last week with regards to this blockade of Kaliningrad. And there was talk of conflict. There was talk of serious escalation with regards to this blockade, which was an illegal blockade. It went against all kinds of treaties and international law. And it had nothing to do with sanctions either, because, once again, this was trade, domestic trade inside of Russia. This was Russia to Russia trade. So the excuse that Lithuania was using in that this is a blockade because of the EU sanctions did not hold up. And Germany knew this. Germany was very spooked by the events in and around Kaliningrad, and it looks like Germany is the country that pushed the EU to find a resolution, or more specifically, that pushed the EU and pushed Lithuania to finally come to some sort of resolution with regards to this blockade. Now, this is not 100% confirmed, so a lot could change in the next week with regards to the standoff. Maybe the neocons are going to call up Germany, and they'll tell Olaf Scholz to stop with this push for some sort of resolution with Kaliningrad. The neocons may tell the German government to not look for a solution, and that they want escalation, and they want tensions with Russia in and around Kaliningrad. That's a possibility, but it's looking more and more likely that in the next couple of days we will have some sort of announcement to some sort of diplomatic resolution with regards to Kaliningrad. Once again, this is not 100% confirmed, but this is what Der Spiegel is leaning towards. And the interesting part about this story is that this diplomatic resolution coming out of Germany was actually put in place before the NATO summit in Madrid. And the only reason that, and this is reporting from Der Spiegel, the only reason that this resolution to Kaliningrad was not put forward was because Germany, they did not want the optics of some sort of EU, NATO, diplomatic resolution kind of a walk back to come out during the NATO conference. They didn't want to make it seem like the EU or Germany was bowing down to Russian threats or Russian demands and was looking weak while the NATO conference was taking place. And more interestingly enough, they actually were waiting for Joe Biden to leave Europe and go back to the US before they started to leak some of this information to Der Spiegel and to the media of a resolution between Russia, Lithuania, Kaliningrad, and the EU. So that is the reasoning behind the delayed announcement of this resolution. All of this was in place before the NATO summit, but they held off for a couple of days because of optics, media, spin, all of those things that the collective West worries about so much. The next article I want to talk about, the next news story I want to talk about is, since we're talking media spin, is an interview that Macron gave, actually a documentary style interview that Macron gave on his way to Kiev a couple of weeks ago. And during this documentary, which is now seeing the light, during this interview, which was broadcast on French television, Macron gave some of his insight as to how France views the conflict in Ukraine and dealing with Russia, and how he dubs it the Anglo-Saxons are viewing things. And this interview was filmed on a train as Macron was making his way back from Kiev last month. And Macron explained that talking to Putin is necessary to prevent a conflict in Ukraine from becoming a wider war, describing, quote, Anglo-Saxon leaders as pushing the message that we must annihilate Russia, weaken it permanently. Macron... Those mopeds are so freaking loud. They're so tiny, but they're so freaking loud. Let's see. Describing Anglo-Saxon leaders as pushing the message that we must annihilate Russia, weaken it permanently, Macron said that his goal is instead to help Ukraine to win and not to fight against Russia, let alone annihilate it. So that is what Macron said during this documentary interview that is now airing on French television. Of course, Macron has gone along with all the sanctions packages that have been leveled at Russia. He has also gone along with arming Ukraine to the teeth. He has sent all types of weapons to Ukraine, and yet he still insists that he doesn't want to escalate with Russia. His choice of words is interesting. He labels the collective West. He divides the collective West into the Anglo-Saxons and I guess the rest of the collective West, which is an interesting choice of words. And he says that the collective West wants to annihilate Russia, when what you are seeing is actually the reverse taking place. We are actually seeing the war in Ukraine and this escalation from the collective West, and what Russia is doing in Ukraine actually annihilate the collective West. So, to be honest, the reverse is happening as to what Macron is describing during this documentary interview. Macron, for his part, has avoided, and he mentions this in the documentary, he has avoided using rhetoric like genocide and that Russia's a sponsor of terrorism. That is true. The rhetoric coming out of Macron has not been as bellicose as the rhetoric that you get from, say, a Boris Johnson or a Joe Biden. Macron has been more tempered in what he has said with regards to Russia and Putin, and he has been the only European leader who has held talks with Putin over the 4 months of this conflict. So you have to give credit where credit is due, but always look at the actions, not the words. So while Macron is talking up de-escalation, during this documentary and how he wants to work with Russia, even though he says his goal is to have Ukraine win but not annihilate Russia. I don't know how those two goals coincide, but while Macron has been a little less bellicose, his actions have been the exact opposite. So he talks about de-escalation, but his actions show escalation. So that is the documentary that is now airing in France, talking up Macron, the strong leader but yet peacemaker. I guess that's the image that Macron is going for. And JPMorgan the other day, and I caught this on a tweet from Zero Hedge. They are issuing a warning that this oil price cap that Yellen is putting into place, I talked about this yesterday as I was referencing the Japanese Prime Minister giving speeches about this price cap and how this is going to hit Russia hard. Anyway, this Yellen oil price cap that is being floated by the collective West as the game-changing event that will sink the Russian economy. Well, JPMorgan is coming out with a warning, and they're pretty much saying that if this price cap were to happen, which is not likely, but say it was going to happen, and I say unlikely because JPMorgan points out that for the price cap to actually work, you would have to get India and China on board, which doesn't seem very likely. But let's just say that India and China sign up to this price cap. And if they were to sign up to this price cap, you better believe that India and China would have done it in consultation with Russia. So there would be something else afoot if they were to actually agree to this price cap. But let's say they agree to it and you get a price cap. JPMorgan is saying that Russia would retaliate by just decreasing production, and that their economy can actually withstand a decrease in oil production, and it would send oil to a price of $380. Here's the tweet from Zero Hedge, and this is in reference to the JPMorgan article, the study that they did. This is basically a warning from JPMorgan. Now, JPMorgan doesn't get many things right, but their warning to Yellen and their warning to the collective West is don't do this, because Russia has all kinds of levers to retaliate. And if they do retaliate, when they retaliate towards a price cap, it's going to be brutal. So the tweet from Zero Hedge says, given the high levels of stress in the oil market, a cut of 3 MBD could cause global Brent price to jump up to 190, while the most extreme scenario, a 5 MBD slash in production, could drive oil price to a stratospheric $380. And that is a quote from the JPMorgan study. So this price cap, which I think is going to go through, I think they're gonna push this thing through without India and China. That's my hunch. They're going to push this through with the go-ahead of the collective West. I don't think India and China will sign up to this, but they will push this price cap through. And if Russia were to retaliate by decreasing production, look out. Look out. It is going to be brutal, absolutely brutal, if Russia does that. But let's hope that that smarter people in and around the collective West actually talk Yellen down from this course of action. So let's walk through the cool part, the cool cafes, and we'll get to a clown world, which has to deal with Liz Truss and her comments with regards to Boris Johnson and his comments on if Vladimir Putin was a woman. Liz Truss actually decided to comment on Boris Johnson's statement about Putin and his and if he was a woman. And Liz Truss actually makes some sense, which I never thought I would say in a Clown World segment. But she goes against Boris Johnson, and she says that it doesn't matter if Putin was male or female. It would not have made a difference, according to Liz Truss. Let me just move right here as I pull up Liz Truss's quote. Here we go. Right, here we go. British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has argued that calling Russia's... one sec. They pick up trash in Greece at like 8:39 in the morning on a Monday morning, and there's all these cars, going to work or trying to go to work. Like, this is rush hour, and this is when they decide to pick up all the trash. It just causes all kinds of hell on the streets in the morning. I mean, it's brutal. Anyway, British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has argued that calling Russia's military campaign in Ukraine an example of President Vladimir Putin's toxic masculinity is not the best way to help Kiev. Prime Minister Boris Johnson previously suggested that Putin would have behaved differently on the world stage if he were a woman. And here is what Liz Truss said. "I don't pretend that I can conduct a psychological analysis of him," Truss told Times Radio this week. "Nor do I think it's helpful, because ultimately what we need to make sure of is that we are supplying the Ukrainians with all of the equipment, all of the political support that they need to win this war." Asked if female leaders were less aggressive than their male counterparts, Truss replied, "I think that both women and men are capable of terrible and appalling acts." So Liz Truss actually comes out with a statement that makes sense. Of course, she talks about arming Ukraine and winning the war and all of these things, but give credit where credit is due. Liz Truss actually comes out with a logical statement, and she goes against Boris Johnson's statement. She makes Boris look even more foolish with his toxic masculinity if Putin was a woman comment. I find it very interesting that that this is what Boris Johnson and his administration are occupied with, trying to figure out what things would be like if Putin was male or female. This is what's occupying their time at this moment. So that is the clown world. This will be a short video for today. I will end it there. Check out Alexander's channel. Check out the Duran channel and go to the duran.locals.com. It's time for me to grab a coffee and get this video up. Take care.